We're going to have one more question before we throw it over to Andre, so I'm just going to pass it over to you, mate. What's next?
Yeah, this is something I get pretty often. I couldn't tell you. With this, I just had that burning desire to build it. Like, it was just something that needed to be done, and life just couldn't go on without it being a reality. So I just did everything I could to make it happen, and I don't really have that desire for anything else at this point, but if it ever comes along, then I've got a pretty good knowledge base now to go off, and a lot of good people that could get a lot of good stuff done. So I want to enjoy the car, and I think driving it and getting it to the point where it's going to drift well and be a good, all-round, reliable race car is going to take a lot of years. So, you know, I just look forward to driving it and enjoying it, and yeah, not having to spend too much money on it, because it is a bit of a stress on everything, spending money all the time. So yeah, it'd just be a good chance to get it out to the people, and, you know, let them have a look at what I've done, and then let me enjoy driving it, and yeah, not think about too much what's next. I think a few motorbikes are cool because it kind of just, you know, it's freedom for me. You look at a motorbike and it's not daunting because it's just a small chassis and one little motor and no wiring, whereas a car was originally really daunting, and it was that daunting that I didn't really want to start building it because I didn't know what it needed, but I knew that I would learn along the way. Because when you look at a car and when you look at a race car, you just get blown away. There's so much stuff to look at that you don't know what to do. So I just broke it down. I said, all right, you've got a wheelbase. So that means the diff kind of has to be in that area, and the motor has to be in that area, and there's the wheel. So then you sort of look into rear end design, you look into front end design. Once I had the cab, I could find out where the seat had to be. That then told me where the pedals had to be, the steering wheel. And then basically once you got all those bits and pieces together, you knock over one stage of the build and then you just work on the next. So it's sort of, you have to think so many steps ahead to make sure it all works together, but it's better just to concentrate on little bits and doing that as good as you can rather than just doing a whole car from scratch. And just thinking about it all, because it just becomes too much. But yeah, I don't know what's next.
What's next? The big question. Well, I have one question, and this will be the last question for you. Nigel, if you had to pick a number between 1 and 38, what would that number be?
24.
24? 24 is a good number. The reason why I asked that question is because, and I didn't mention this before, is that come Sunday, which is day 2 of the Fawn Rotary Nationals, is our drag day down in Mere. Alright, that number 24 is the name on the person of this list. It's one of you guys who are here. And that person is going to be the one who's going to passenger with Nige on the track on Sunday. And we have passes for you. Let's announce that name. Number 24 is Andrea Dunham. That's you.
Winner,
ladies
winner.
and gentlemen, put your hands together for Andrea. Come around here, collect your prize. This is Nigel. Nigel, this is Andrea.
Good work. Thank you. Both of them?
All right, Andrea. So, bring your tickets on Sunday, and make yourselves known to Azar here, and you'll be going down on the track with Nige and engineered to slide. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Andrea.
Thank you.
All right, right now we're going to hand the microphone over to Andre.
When I put the call out for someone to help me wire this car, that was the only thing that I just couldn't get my head around. You know, special race car wiring takes a talented person to get that done. And as soon as Andre contacted me and goes, hey, there's some jerk at work that says you need a hand, do you want me to come and help you out? I'll just fly in and you just feed me and I'll just wire your car and we'll just tune it and it'll be all sweet. I didn't know, I sort of had apprehensions about it because I was the only one that had ever touched the car, and to get someone else on it was going to have to be pretty good. And turns out he is pretty good. So yeah, this is Andre and he can tell you a few things about the wiring on the car.
Thanks, Nigel. Right, so pretty much as Nigel said, he put the call out on his website for someone to help him out with the wiring, and to be honest, with what Nigel's done for the rest of the car, I really have no doubt that if he put his mind to it, he could have probably done the job, and he probably could have done it as well as I did it. But motorsport wiring is quite a specialist art. It's not rocket science, but probably one of the biggest hurdles for those who are wanting to do a mil-spec loom for a car is it does actually require quite a lot of specialist tools. So if you're trying to gear up to do a one-off mil-spec loom, often it's actually going to be cheaper to pay someone to do it rather than to buy all those tools just to do your one loom. So it's a project I've personally been following, and one of my staff at work said, Nigel's asking about this, so yeah, we got in touch and everything kind of worked out. So we jetted over to Melbourne, and my business partner Ben came over to kind of document and film the whole deal, which was a lot of fun. So we were in Melbourne for 2 weeks, and I saw the inside of the airport, and then I saw the inside of Nigel's shed for 2 weeks.
I didn't let him out at all until the job was done.
Yeah, and some kangaroos, but that was about it. So it was a long 2 weeks, but it was also a hell of a lot of fun, and really enjoyed hanging out with Nigel and seeing his creativity. So I'll just give you a really brief rundown on the electronics package in the car. It's actually really straightforward and simple, kind of like everything that Nigel's done. He didn't want to overcomplicate anything, so it's really just got the bare essentials. It's not too often we get a car where there's literally not a single wire in the car, so we're really starting from scratch. I kind of knew the quality of the build to date and knew what Nigel wanted, so it's a proper mil-spec loom, and what I mean by that is the same sort of grade of wiring that you'd see in an F1 car, like professional motorsport level. So it's all sealed. There's a Raychem DR25 sheath over all of the wiring. The wire that we've used itself is a mil-spec wire. It's called Tefsel, so it's stronger, a bit more reliable than normal automotive wiring. One of the features we've used as well, there's an Autosport bulkhead connector on the firewall, so that's one of the cool tricks with motorsport wiring. So in a motorsport application, the engine may be in and out of the car quite often, and removing every single connector off the injectors and the coils, etc. is quite time consuming. So we've got a half twist connector on the firewall, so the whole loom can come out with the motor. It's really quick and easy. Starting at the start though, one of the things that separates this from a normal wiring loom is that Nigel chose to use a Racepack Smart Wire, which is a power distribution module. Now, in older sort of wiring installations, we'd see fuses and we'd see relays, which are used to switch the main power, like fuel pump, headlights, indicators, those sorts of things that have quite a lot of current draw. Fuses and relays are quite unreliable in motorsport applications, and they're also very time consuming to mount and wire, and they're fiddly. So a power distribution module gets rid of all of that, and basically it's a solid state switch, so we can program it to turn various functions on and off. It's nice and neat. It's just one little compact unit with all the wiring going to it. So that was really nice to use that. You can get it to do some really cool functions as well. So say for argument's sake your alternator's dying and you're out on the racetrack, so you can program it to basically shut down all of the functions on the car that aren't absolutely necessary, so you can actually creep it through to the pit. So maybe you can turn off your headlights, fans, windscreen wipers, everything you don't need to run the engine. So that was kind of the heart of the whole package. Then we used a Link G4 Storm ECU. Again, Nigel didn't really need any extensive data logging. There's no wheel speed sensors. There's nothing like that. No lambda sensors. It's just the bare basics. So that's basically running the engine. And there's a Racepack IQ3 Dash, which again, it's just purely for a display. So it's telling Nigel the bare basics of what's going on: engine temperature, RPM. It's got a shift light. It's got oil pressure and fuel pressure going into it, which we've got some warnings set for as well. So it's a pretty basic package there. Nothing sort of over the top. With the mil-spec wiring, you can also see, if you have a look in the engine bay, where all of the connections are. One of the really nice features is each connection or plug on the loom has a nice little yellow label on it, so there's no way that you can end up putting a connection onto the wrong part. It's all really straightforward. So again, in the heat of competition where there's not a lot of time, it makes sure that no one's going to end up making a mistake. So yeah, that's basically what goes into a mil-spec wiring loom. One of the other advantages with it is it's completely sealed from. So there's no way for water or dust to get into that loom, and that's one of the things that's going to keep it more reliable. I'll pass it back on to Nigel, but if anyone does have any questions about the wiring in the car, feel free to ask. I'll be hanging around and I can answer them.
Yeah, and the wiring setup in the car, like Andre said, I just wanted it basic as anything. You know, I'm not interested in data logging anything with this car. It's not going to be used really for competition. It's more just, you know, as long as it makes the power and as long as everything works as it should, then that was just basically all I needed. And the smart wire was good because you can basically plug your laptop in, you can almost pre-wire it and then tell it what you want to do. So, for instance, on the switches we've got ignition on, the button starts the car, I'll fire it up once we put everything back together. And then you've got headlights, high beams, indicators, well, it's not indicators, it's just hazards for now. But yeah, we've got a lot more headroom with the race pack smart wire, and it interfaces in with the ECU via Link's little special plug that interlinks both of them, and then onto the dash as well. So it was all pretty straightforward, and it requires a smart person to make everything work together, which Andre did, and yeah, it all come together really well. These clamps are really good. They're actually not the genuine ones. The genuine ones are about $200 each or something ridiculous. These are a China copy. Probably not real good, but they seem all right. They're like $40 each or something. It just allows you to sort of put everything on and off. These oil lines basically just clip straight on for the oil cooler, so it's full of fluid and ready to go. So this just has 2 pins at the front. Get it over that filter. Drop it in. It just sits on like that.
Can you tell us a little about the motor build that you got going as well?
Yeah, I always loved motorbikes, and funnily enough, it's the exact same way that my car life has gone. I just kind of modify stuff to the point where I could have just built it from scratch. So kind of just had once this was gone, I had the vision to build another motorbike, and wanted to build a chassis from scratch out of chromoly, because I sort of, you know, I wanted to do this out of chromoly, but I didn't really know how to weld properly. So take all the lessons that I learned building this chassis and then put them into the motorbike build. So 2 Jiffy tight fittings just clipped together to plumb the oil cooler. And then there's 1 plug that Andre's put in here, and that wires up the headlights. And I really wanted the radiator on that front panel as well, but obviously water is kind of hard to quick disconnect. So it stayed in there. So that's the oil cooler plumbed up, the wiring on. Now I just put the bolts in to secure it. Just 2 M8 bolts.
Nigel, do you just want to tell us those little Jiffy type fittings, because that's something I had never seen till we came over and helped you out.
That's super cool.
And I think it's probably something I would include on a few of my own builds. So can you just tell us how they actually work?
A lot of this car, you know, like inspiration came from speedway cars, NASCARs, just everything that is out there. And those quick release fittings were also, I didn't really know about them until I found them. I did a bit of research and found out that they're not very good for high pressure situations like brake lines and stuff like that, but you can get them for brake lines.
I think that's one of the things that can only come after you've actually had experience building a few cars, or even more to the point, just working on the damn things. You want to basically make everything easy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know when we cut the front end off my drag car and tube framed that, and I thought everything looked great, and everyone was really happy with it until I had to change the clutch. And then I realised that we kind of boxed ourselves into a corner, and you had to pull the whole engine out, so it was a 10-hour job, and all of a sudden it didn't feel so smart. So you quickly realise that anything you can do that's going to make your life easier servicing it is going to be beneficial. Yeah,
definitely. These guards are not really the final shape. I wanted, well, when I started, I wanted like a really factory body line. After building these guards and taking a mould from them and everything, I kind of worked out that I need a higher radius, and by building these to sort of suit a normal car and then cutting them, it kind of stuffed up the radius a bit. It looks a bit wrong, so I've just made a mould, or made a panel, a plug, to make another mould. So it's based on a two-wheel drive guard, and then it has a lot more clearance and a proper radius that when it touches the tyre, instead of ripping at the guard like it has done, it'll just sort of sweep it out and just, yeah, it'll still wear them out, but, you know, you've got to keep it hella flush, as they say.
Is that a frustration for you, though, actually having a car like this that you want to use rather than just have it as a showpiece? Obviously, it's going to get banged up a bit, yeah?
I'll tell you what, from the very start, building a drift car that you know is going to get banged up, it's a little bit hard to put so much effort in because you know that you're going to be doing it over and over and over again. But it was always the way it was going to be, and it would have been so easy to build a show car. I could have made something amazing and really, you know, way out there, but it's not really what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be the whole package. I wanted to drive the car, well, firstly build the car, then drive the car, and yeah, just do everything to its full potential. And I think this car achieves that. It looks good at a show, it works good, well, it's going to work good at the track, especially this Tuesday. And yeah, I guess it's got that show appeal that, you know, look deep into it, and there's, you'll never look at every single little aspect of it. Even when I slide underneath to fix something, I'll be like, hey, I think I did pretty well doing that. So it's sort of, yeah, there's a lot of aspects to it that go a lot further than it just being a car.
With so much work going into it over those 2.5 years, and obviously you've built your skill level up over that time.
Yeah, for sure.
What would you change going back? I don't know if this got covered in the questions.
Yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. If I build another one, then I'd change a lot of things, but with this, I wouldn't change a thing because everything tells a story. You know, every weld that isn't quite correct, it sort of just tells a story of where I come from, and you know, and the budget that I had when I built it, it's sort of, if I did this again, I'd build a chassis a lot more simply, with a tubular floor and a few other additions.
The fact that you've used that box section for the floor and everything else as tube frame, was there a reason for that?
Nah, like when I started, this was just going to be a throw together of factory parts and just something that was going to work. So all the floors just RHS with the paint wiped off it with fuel or thinners, just to keep it on the cheap. But then after I built the chassis, things kind of snowballed, and I had different ideas of where I wanted the car to be, and then I just did each single part of the car better than the last, and really surprised myself once I sat back and it was all finished. Yeah, it was sort of a big achievement to see where it come from and the plans that I had for it at the start. So yeah, I wouldn't change a thing with this because, like I said, it tells a story, and it is what it is. You know, if I went back over every single little thing to change it, I would never get it finished, because you learn so much. I should have put these on before I put the intercooler in. You learn so much over the build that you do one end, you come to the next, and you go, I can do that better, so you go back and redo that. So it sort of just never ends. You'd just be redoing your work over and over again. So it kind of got to the point where I was like, oh, I'm not happy with that, I'll cut the floor out again. But then I was like, nah, just get it done. It is what it is, and yeah, it'll be better finished than being a forever, never-ending project.
I think a lot of people could take that on board as some really sound advice, though. Will spend a lifetime trying to chase perfection rather than actually just getting the car out there and doing it. So
yeah, definitely.
You know, that's certainly valuable advice there.
Yeah, just concentrate on getting it done to the best of your ability and don't go over your budget, because, you know, life's not all about cars. Well, it actually is, but it's not really. I keep telling my girlfriend that it's not, but it keeps being all about cars.
And we were over there before you went on the dyno. The job that I think you were putting off the whole time that Ben and I were there was the intake pipe.
Yep.
And I guess, guys, just to let everyone know that Nigel's still human. He kind of backed himself into a corner with that intake pipe. So he's got a V8 supercar sway bar, anti-roll bar in the front of it, and where he had fitted that, basically it runs straight across the air inlet to the turbocharger. So there was no real easy way for him to make an intake pipe to the turbo. And what you can see there, actually down beside the oil cooler, there's a little pipe pops up. So he's actually had to make the intake pipe come off the turbo, it goes down, then it goes underneath the radiator and the intercooler, and then pops back up. And he literally put that job off about as he could. And finally we sort of said, hey look, it's not actually going to go on the dyno without this, can you hurry up? And he chucked something amazing together in about half an hour, so I don't know why he put it off for so long.
Yeah, and then I ended up redoing it anyway.
Never happy?
No, never.
You said you've had a bit of trouble, well, not trouble, the sway bars that you put on it, you feel might be a little bit too stiff?
I think they are, and I've later had a friend do some calculations, and he reckons we can get some made that would suit the weight of the car, which will probably be an option later on down the track for drifting. I think it'll be fine the way it is. I think I should be able to drive around any handling problems that it has. But yeah, these things will take time to iron out, and it's going to take me a bit of time to work out how the thing wants to be driven, and yeah, drive it accordingly.
Even the way you came across those sway bars, because they're a pretty serious piece of kit straight off a V8 supercar, and you know, probably thousands of dollars, but tell us how you actually got those.
Screwdriver, flat blade. Actually, they're ex-FPR V8 supercar ones. They don't run them anymore, they run a different setup. And as soon as the V8 supercar ones get stone shipped, they basically sell them and they're no good anymore. Because there's so many stresses going through a V8 supercar sway bar, because they're a really heavy car, these sway bar ends actually bend, I think, up to about 40 degrees or something. They go a phenomenal amount, more than you would think steel would bend and come back. So they're actually heat-treated chromoly, and it would basically be impossible to work out the formula to get that done, which we later have worked that out, but yeah, without that knowledge at that time on how they work, I just thought I'll just put them in and we'll see how it goes. And they were quite inexpensive. I think they were $120 a pair. So yeah, $240 all up, and then I made the link and the bushings and then the bars that run down to the lower control arms. So it was a good kind of way to get into that high-end stuff, but without having to spend too much buying them brand new, because I think they're about $600 or $700.
It seems like everywhere along the whole build you've managed to get yourself in the right position to find parts at just the right price. And I know when we ran the webinar over in Australia, we had a few people sort of thought that you were earning millions of dollars a year, and clearly you've already made out that's certainly not the case. It's,
definitely not.
It's a lot of blood, sweat and tears have gone into it, and you still work a day job as well.
Yep. I mean, it's definitely, if you're willing to put your time and effort into everything and actually, you know, if you can't afford something, then you just got to research more and more and more, and I guess if you want it bad enough, then you'll make it happen. So yeah, it was really just a matter of, you know, if I couldn't afford something, then I'd just put it off and I'd go on to something else and wait till I could afford it. So I'm really happy with the end product, and it really, I think there was two things that made me feel alright about the build. One was it being a drift car, and being a drift car, there's no real rules on anything. If it was a drag car or a circuit car, it would need like a specific weight transfer, specific suspension layout, everything. Everybody knows everything about circuit cars, so there'd be heaps of guys saying, that's not going to work, don't do that, it's not even going to work. So being a drift car and nobody really building a drift car from scratch kind of gave me the freedom to do things how I wanted and then see if they were going to work. So taking that attitude and then thinking, all right, I'm not going to spend a heap on this, it kind of gave me the freedom to just build it how I want to build it, and not worry about too much, you know, if it's actually going to work, because at the end of the day, it's basically an S15 suspension layout that sits, well, basically it has a lot lower centre of gravity. The power is similar, it's the same length as the JZX 100, but it's a lot stiffer, so little changes with suspension will make a great deal of change to the way it handles, so I just made sure everything was adjustable. You know, like if it had to be this and it had to be that, then I probably would have never built it because it would have just been too much of a stress. So being a drift car and then having a kind of, you know, not a massive budget on it made me think that it was achievable.
The fact that you've based it around proven products such as the rear end and the front suspension though, realistically, chances are it was all going to work pretty well. Yeah, definitely. I kind of, having built so many S chassis and drifted them before and knowing the dynamics of different types of cars, I thought if it is a pain in the ass to drive, then I've just got to become a better driver and learn how to manipulate it into drifting. Or if it was a nightmare to drive, then I could change stuff until it drove all right. So it wasn't a big worry for me. It was just more getting it done, getting it out there, and getting that idea out of my head and into the garage. Watching you drive it on those few laps you did get in at World Time Attack before the gearbox let go, it certainly looked like it was a bit of a handful with the rear end being so light. Is that a problem, or is it just a lack of time in the car so far? It's funny because I initially thought that the rear end would be too light to drift. It wouldn't have enough drive. That's why I equipped it with only 225 tyres, just until I kind of got a feel for it, because I thought it would be slow and not that much grip and kind of easy to drive, just really tail happy. But it was actually the opposite. It had that much rigidity that it just really drove out of corners, and it was really twitchy because there was no chassis movement or suspension movement, that it actually felt really good to drive. But there's got to be some way. I'm always trying to make it feel like a thrashed out S13, because they're the most fun to drive because they're just real sloppy and everything takes ages to happen. You can kind of relax behind the wheel, whereas with this it's sort of every little wheel movement, steering wheel movement you make, it transmits straight into what the tyres are doing. So it was sort of, you know, kind of hard to get a feel for what it's doing. I just remembered I didn't do up those guard bolts, did I? No. Thanks for warning me. Sorry, I'm distracting you. So what was it like jumping out of this and then back into your, what did you say, sloppy red car?
Yeah, it felt like a mess. I thought something was wrong with it, but it was perfectly fine. But that just highlights that everything that happens in this car is lightning quick. Everything feels just amazing, and you get such a mechanical feel out of the car that you start to understand what Formula One drivers would sort of feel through their steering wheel. I'd never had that feedback of what the front tyres are doing. Like you just knew everything that was happening with the car through the steering wheel, through your feet. It was just taking out, I guess, just all the movement that you get through a factory chassis that you never really realise is there until you drive something else.
Other than the obvious upgrade with the 6-speed sequential gearbox, were there any changes that you made to the Ute?
No. Other than that, no. The laps that I did do in it and the laps that it was going for felt really good, and I knew what I needed to change as a driver, but I didn't get a chance to actually do that before the gearbox broke. So my time over here in New Zealand will involve a few track days, and you know, again, I just want everything to work and just to be able to drive it and learn how to drive it properly. I'm just going to need a hand off someone to lift this rear end on. You good? I just might have to take that out and just take that pin out. That just sits in that channel down the bottom. Yeah.
Don't run the loom.
Don't damage the loom. I know a guy that can fix it, it's alright. He's real cheap too. It's going to have to come forward, it's going to lift that. That's it. So I tried to, when I mounted the front bar, the rear, I wanted to do it without tools, and one thing that I came across was these ball lock pins, and they're a stainless shaft with a spring in the middle, an aluminium end, and then two little lockout pins inside it. They're lightweight, they're strong. They would be expensive, but I bought them as ex-NASCAR items that were really cheap, delivered from the US. So again, more high-end race parts that are cheap second-hand, and they're really good. I know a lot of drag cars run them for the wheelie bars, the wing, so they can change position on the run without any tools. So it was a good find, and something that makes removing the rear end and the front end a simple no-tool job.
Nigel, you built a flat deck lid for the Ute as well,
yep.
and you're not running that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the deck lid was, I wanted to cover everything up because I guess it just, like the thing that irked me when it sat there in the sun was the light would come through the inside of the wheels and just make everything look a bit weird. Again, it just didn't give me the look that I wanted. So I made a flat lid, but then after I made that, it was such a pain in the ass to, one, strap the car down inside the trailer, because obviously you can't get under it to get into the suspension. And then I couldn't lift it off by myself, and anything that I can't do by myself, then it's just really hard to manage. So I built it, and then I've never used it. So yeah, it's something that I've got there, and it's all powder coated, and it's got the top is a lightweight it's sign material, so it's 2 sheets of really thin aluminium. Easy. If you did a national round in Australia, you could probably spend this whole budget that it took me to build this in a year and a half just buying tyres. So I made the decision to build this and back out of pro level drifting. And then on the other hand, it probably made me more known in the scene for other reasons.
Look what it's done for you.
Yeah.
Certainly hasn't hurt your credibility.
No, that's it.
And on that note as well, with the cost of tyres, I mean, you're not competing in this as a pro driver, but
yep.
Tyres aren't cheap. You've got a wedding to pay for, so everyone here needs to make sure that they grab some engineered to slide merchandise at least sometime over the weekend. I'm sure Nigel and
So you're saying if they don't buy a hat, I won't get married?
Something like that. Celia was having to talk to me before. She's just quite worried about the budget for the wedding. So yeah, make sure you do that. And also anyone here who's on Instagram, make sure you grab a snap of this and upload it and tag it with ETS4 and Rotor. See if we can get that going as well.
Is that the official hashtag?
It is now.
Yeah, right. Have to get on it.
Those air jacks that you've got there, Nigel, that's something a lot of us with race cars would be really happy to have. So you made that yourself as well. Again, you didn't buy it off the shelf, did you?
No, that's it. Like I said, I answered a question before about that. You mustn't
sorry about that.
But yeah, they're Murray Coon Automotive, who builds suspension for a lot of the fastest time attack cars and pro-level drift cars. He just works out of a little garage, and he doesn't have a stack of money, so he's got a lot of know-how.
So talk us through this procedure, Nigel.
Thanks to Mad Mike for lending us his nitrogen bottle. Basically just plug the line into the rear air jacks. I had the option to plumb them all four into the one port, so all the air jacks go up at once. I decided against that because it's a drift car and predominantly I'll just be lifting the rear, but it turns out when you lift the rear, it breaks the front bumper. So I kind of have to lift all four, so I might have
small oversight.
Yeah, just a little. So I kind of have to look into maybe plumbing them all up as one, but if you just drive it up on the blocks. So I just basically run airbag line, just push to connect fittings into Nitto fittings, so it's all really cheap stuff. Usually in a V8 supercar you have your quick connect fittings, which I looked into getting, but they were like $1,000 for just a couple of airlines, and I can do that for basically free just with some nylon tube. And then some dump valves off eBay, and the regulator. To lift a car like this, or to lift a normal car, you'll need about 200 PSI. So your normal regulator probably won't do that. You need a proper refrigeration regulator. And my mate works in the refrigeration business, so he helped me out with that one. And free nitrogen at home too, so that's always good. So yeah, basically just crack the bottle, wind the pressure up until it looks like something's happening. Take out these tubes.
So those tubes you're taking out, they're just a safety stand?
Yeah, they just wrap around the piston. They're a good fit. They'll get looser as the years go on. I won't make any jokes on that comment.
Best not to.
Nah. And basically shut the bottle off and then dump the air out of it. And then it hits the ground. You hear the air jacks come up. They've got internal springs, so they suck up inside themselves and don't come out when you're drifting, hopefully. And then it's all back together. That's basically it. Might fire it up to see whether everything I did went the right way. And then someone has to remind me to do those wheels up before we hit the track. Or else they'll be going all different directions. So in here, basically, I flick this switch. It's a master power switch that runs to the smart wire. So conventionally, you'd have a big battery cable with a cutout. With this, you don't really need it. It's just a small little wire. So that basically switches the power on. Everything's powered up. The dash powers up. Switch the ignition on. Andre's been playing with the gear lever, so I'll make sure I got the clutch in. And then we got oil pressure. There it is. All back together and ready to go.